Welcome to the Mind Solution podcast with Sarah Maud. The Mind Solution podcast is for leaders like you who are passionate about well-being in the workplace because you understand that a strong, resilient and happy workforce is the key to your organisation's success. The Mind Solution podcast is here to help you. So join us every week where we'll share with you powerful insights, strategies and know-how to ensure that your people and your organisation are truly thriving from the inside out. Welcome to the Mind Solution podcast, where today I'm going to be focusing on a very different angle when it comes to well-being in the workplace. Because today I'm diving into something that most leadership development programs miss, but that is absolutely foundational to how you lead. And that is all about your nervous system. So if you are a woman in a leadership position, you've probably felt the weight of expectation. I've been there, I've done it. I've got the t-shirt from my HR days in the corporate world. That sense of always needing to have the answers, appearing composed and delivering results. But let me get real for a moment with you, because I'm willing to guess that beneath that exterior, there's possibly a sense of overwhelm, of feeling anxious or doubting your abilities. And here's the truth: how you're showing up, how you behave, and how you lead actually has everything to do with your nervous system. And I absolutely know this firsthand. When I worked in HR, I wish somebody had told me about the nervous system. I had no idea at the time that my constant drive for affection and over preparation wasn't just who I was. It wasn't just about my personality, but it was a sign that my nervous system was stuck in overdrive. I was wired for proving myself. And let me tell you, it was pretty exhausting at times. And it wasn't until I discovered the science of the nervous system and tools like EFT tapping that things started to make sense to me. I started to be able to join the dots. The jigsaw puzzle came to life, and I finally understood what had been happening beneath the surface in the decade or more that I spent working in the corporate world. And it's one of the reasons that I am so passionate about helping women in leadership step out of survival mode and into the calm, confident, and authentic leader that they're capable of being. Because one of the things that I know to be true is when I worked in the corporate world, there was thousands being invested in leadership development programs. There still is thousands going into leadership development programs. But in order for somebody to change their behavior, we need to go deeper. A lot of leadership development programs, they focus on output. They focus on behavior. But what they're not doing is helping leaders, and in my case, women, understand what is really driving their behavior at a much deeper level, at an identity level, at a cellular level. And your nervous system is like the control center for your body. Your nervous system is regulating your stress response, regulates your emotions, your energy, and even your decision making. And when it's regulated, what's often referred to as rest and digest, well, then you feel calm. You feel calm, you feel collected, you feel focused, you feel in control. You feel that you're in your natural flow state. You've got more clarity around your thinking. You trust yourself. You trust yourself to make good decisions. You trust your gut instinct. And you find that you've got more space, more bandwidth to be able to respond to whatever's coming up in the workplace effectively. But when your nervous system is dysregulated, well, then you're stuck in survival mode. You're stuck in the freeze, fight, flight, or fawn response. And it's because your body's got this sense that there is a threat to life. And that's when we experience feeling emotionally hijacked, we experience overthinking, stress, anxiety, and over a period of time, we're going to get burnt out. The nervous system can only handle being in this dysregulated state for a short period of time. It was never designed to remain dysregulated. And for women in leadership, it is absolutely critical to have this understanding and to have the knowledge and wisdom on how to regulate the nervous system. Because I come across so many amazing women that I work with who've achieved phenomenal results in their career, but it is coming at a cost. It's success, but they're paying their price. Their mental health is paying their price. Their physical health is paying their price. They're burnt out. They're exhausted. They're not starting the year feeling like, yeah, let me at it. They're experiencing disconnected. They're feeling numb because their nervous system has been stuck in this dysregulated place for far too long. And what that means from a leadership perspective is that a dysregulated nervous system is going to impact your ability to lead. No matter how many strategies or skills that you learn. And for me, this is where it's fundamental because so many leadership development programs and even just leadership coaching, they focus on skills building. But you can build all the skills in the world, but if you don't have a regulated nervous system, those skills are not going to have the impact that you desire. So if you're listening to this and you're curious about, well, okay, some of this is maybe making sense, but how do I know if I've got a dysregulated nervous system? Because here's what I also see with women in leadership is that they've spent so long in this state that for a lot it's become the norm instead of the exception. They've just become accustomed to living and leading from this dysregulated space. So I'm going to share with you here 6 signs that your nervous system is stuck in dysregulation. It's stuck in survival mode. So let's see which of these resonate with you. So first up, overthinking and over preparing. Now, we can all be prone to a bit of overthinking. But if we're constantly in our head, overthinking everything, over preparing, spending hours over preparing for meetings with the leadership team, meetings with the board, with the chairman, rehearsing for meetings because you're scared. You don't trust yourself to get it right. You're worried about being asked a question and not having the response at hand. So if you're stuck in overthinking and over preparing, that's one of the signs right there. Number two is chronic self-doubt, that imposter syndrome that is whispering or potentially shouting in your ear that, do I really belong in this role? Or is somebody going to come along and tap me on the shoulder and say, oh, sorry, we made a mistake. Yeah, you're not really meant to be in this role. And here's the crazy thing is that I've worked with women who've been in the organization or they've been in a role for years, in many cases over 10 years, but they're still questioning, do I belong in this role? Because despite some of the leadership development stuff that they've done, what they haven't addressed is their identity. If we are still operating from this this old outdated identity that we are not good enough, then we're going to keep defaulting to that. So imposter syndrome is about this fear that I am winging it, that somebody is going to come along, and we feel in the role, we feel like we're a fraud because at the very heart of it, we don't feel that we are good enough. And if we don't feel that we're good enough, then we're not going to feel that we are worthy, that we're deserving to be in that role. And what I see with women in leadership is the further they climb the career ladder within an organization or within their career, the worse that it gets. It feels to them like the stakes get higher. So that's sign number two. Number three is emotional overwhelm. So with emotional overwhelm, we can find ourselves really overreacting to situations. And when I say overreacting, this is not about you dismissing your feelings. I hear a lot of women gaslight themselves. And by gaslighting themselves, they're saying, oh, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe this isn't such a big deal. Maybe I'm being a bit too sensitive. Maybe that person who's just shut me down, maybe it's not so bad. That's different. When women are gaslighting themselves, it's usually because of the dynamics that they grew up in. Maybe they had a narcissistic mother or a very emotionally avoidant father. So this isn't about you dismissing any of the emotions and trying to downplay them. But when we find ourselves reacting disproportionately to stress, then that's letting us know that we are in overwhelmed and we are reacting more than we'd like to. It's like we haven't got any bandwidth to be able to take a step back, take a breath and think, okay, what is it that I need in this moment? What would really help me? So we're very reactionary. And that's what I mean about the emotional overwhelm, because if we're constantly reacting to situations, we're like a ping pong ball on a ping pong table. So that's number three. Number four is exhaustion. Exhaustion and burnout. It's like being a hamster on a treadmill that you just can't get off. And what I see with women is that no matter how much they sleep, they're still knackered. Whatever rest that they get, they never feel truly rested. Even when they've had maybe a week or 2 weeks on holiday, what I inevitably find with these amazing women is they actually give themselves permission to have, say, a week off, whether that's a week at home or whether it's getting away for a week. But what often happens is they get sick because it's like their body goes, oh, thank God. She's finally listened to us. We've been trying to get her attention for a really long fucking time, and she's finally listening to us. And it's like, oh, the adrenaline starts to leave the body, and the nervous system finally starts to calm down a bit. And because the immune system is so weakened because our nervous system has been dysregulated, well, that's when we get sick. And it's really shitty getting sick when you're on holiday. I remember 5 years ago, I hadn't had a holiday myself for quite a long period of time. And I knew that it was time to have a holiday when I was trying to put the kettle in the fridge. And I couldn't work out why I couldn't get this kettle into the fridge. And then suddenly I was like, oh, it's a kettle. What are you doing? And then when I tried to put hairspray on as deodorant, I was trying to work out why it was really sticky under my armpits. And it was like, this might be an indicator that I need a holiday. And so I took myself off to Bali for a month, which was one of the best decisions that I made. And yeah, it was a holiday that I should have taken several months before, because the first day was great, but I could feel my body starting to come down with a cold, and it was like, oh, no, 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 no. I was on this beautiful, beautiful island. I absolutely adore Bali. But yeah, the first week was just me sleeping and just exhausted. And the rest of the time was wonderful because I gave my body what it needed. I went to an Ayurvedic retreat. I was having a massage or an Ayurvedic treatment every day. I was drinking so much water. I was getting up at about 5 in the morning. That might not sound like a holiday to you, but it was part of my Ayurvedic reset. I was walking along the beach at sunrise. I was chanting, I was meditating, I was watching the sunrise, I was practicing gratitude. I got back into yoga. I mean, I have a very mixed relationship with yoga. I need to do more of it because I am quite stiff. So I really got into the yoga, and I just came back like a different woman. And it was just incredible. And I really, really noticed it with my one-to-one clients, because it was like my intuition's very strong, but this was like something cosmic. I had these women literally either on calls or walking through the door, and it was like I knew exactly what was going on with them before they'd even opened their mouth. That is what we can experience when we prioritize self-care. So for me, that was a reminder to practice what I preached. And as much as I would like to disappear off to Bali, it's a little bit far from Scotland, so I have to work with it. But these we can spend time just resting, but what needs to take place is not just a complete reset so that you're not trying to put the kettle into the fridge, but it's also coming back home. For me, it was not just about having a holiday, it was getting back to prioritizing self-care, to really nurturing me, and also doing the energetic work to calm down the nervous system, to remind myself of what true high performance is. And that begins with prioritizing self care. So, for a lot of women, they're kind of, they might be taking a bit of time out, but if they go straight back to work and they haven't made the changes necessary to prioritize self care, which is also a sign of self sabotage, if you're constantly deprioritizing self care, then a week off isn't gonna cut the mustard. So that's number four. Number five, fear of judgment. If we've got a fear of judgment, that fear of judgment is going to be wired into the nervous system, and we will find ourselves potentially avoiding situations, especially in the workplace, where we fear being judged. And so, what I see with women that have got that fear of judgment comes out a lot when it comes to public speaking. And again, it doesn't matter what level that they reach within the organization, they can reach a level of seniority. But if they've got that fear of judgment, it really shows up. It shows up in town halls, it shows up in their team meetings. It particularly shows up if there is a level of seniority in the room with them, because they just freak out that they are going to be judged by their peers or people that are more senior to them. So that fear of judgment is absolutely a sign that you've got a dysregulated nervous system. I worked with a wonderful, wonderful woman at the end of last year who, she'd reached a very senior level within her organization. She worked for one of the major banks in the UK. She had a team of 300 people, but she had crippling imposter syndrome. And she initially came to me because she had this fear of public speaking, and she'd reached the point where she was like, I can't hide anymore. And also, my body can't take it anymore. She would spend days, even weeks, worrying about having to present at certain events. And so finally, she decided to do something about it. And when I very first spoke to her, what immediately jumped out at me is that this wasn't just about a fear of public speaking. In fact, it's never just about a fear of public speaking. It's about the fear of what we think is going to happen. So that fear of being judged. And so the crippling imposter syndrome that she experienced was also feeding into that fear of judgment. And I remember having a conversation and saying, what is it going to take for you to recognize that you are enough? And so working together, we were able to change and upgrade her identity to accept that she was enough. Because again, here's the truth. You can get all the way up to the level of chief exec, to vice president, to president. You can have a list of accolades and achievements as long as your arm. But if you don't accept that you are enough as you are, regardless of external validation, regardless of external achievement, then we're always going to be operating from this dysregulated nervous system, and also from this sense of something's missing, that I need to do more, I need to try harder, I need to push myself. And it's like, no, you don't need to do those things. You are amazing just as you are. And it's time to it's time to own that. It is time to own your worth. And I have had so many conversations with women that said, I know at an intellectual level, we can all know things at an intellectual level, but if we don't feel it at an energetic level, there is going to be contraction in the body. There is a mismatch in the body. Because the intellect only knows what's known. And what's running the show are all of those unconscious programs that story that we have about ourselves, stories that were created when we were kids. You know, for me, I had a dad who was very, very present, worked very hard. There was always food on the table. We had nice holidays. But my dad was emotionally avoidant. And as a child, I internalized that as I need to really work hard to get approval. I need to work hard to be loved. I need to work hard to know that I am loved. And so that manifested in my corporate career in all the ways that I've spoken about. It's like, well, if I just work a bit harder, if I just push myself a little bit more. But yeah, it doesn't work. You know, we might get the promotion, and for a while there's that sense of, I've done it. I've done it. I'm good enough. And it's not that we necessarily have that conscious awareness of the dialogue in our heads. Sometimes we do, but it's more about the feeling. It's this feeling of, well, oh yeah, maybe this means that I am enough. But then once that initial dopamine hit wears off, well, then we're back to that sense of not being enough. And yeah, the way that it absolutely manifests itself is exhaustion, burnout, that fear of judgment. And then finally is avoiding being visible. And this is where I see women in organizations kind of walking a bit of a tightrope, because they actually have reached a level of seniority in the organization. So they are visible to an extent, but they're playing small, because playing small feels safer than stepping into opportunities. So there are a lot of opportunities that allow them to progress, to evolve, but they shy away from them. And that avoidance of being visible, it feeds into the story. Because if I'm visible, there's more chance that I might be judged. And if I'm judged, then I don't think I can cope with that. So all of these things, they feed in to one another. And if any of these sound familiar, then trust me, you are not alone. As I've shared with you about my own story, you know, for me, I wish I'd had this awareness, but I'm going back 13, 14 years ago. This kind of stuff wasn't even being talked about. And so I had a sense of not feeling adequate. I knew that I compared myself to other people, but I didn't know what was really driving that at the heart of it. And it's only moving into this field when I started to study solution focused psychotherapy and hypnotherapy and EFT. And that's when I was able to start uncovering my own leadership journey and working to transform and upgrade my identity. And I've been able to do that. It's what's enabled me to grow a global training business and work with incredible women across the world, because I've done that. And it's not that we get to a certain point and it's like tick a box, like, but when we upgrade our identity, we spend more time operating from that woman who knows that she is enough, that she is worthy, that she is owning her worth. And let me tell you, when you step into that, oh my God, it is such a fucking empowering place to show up from every single day. That feeling of empowerment, to feel that in every cell of your body. it ripples into every area of your life. And it's like we've come home to the truth of who we really are. And this is why I want this for you. If this is resonating with you, women judge themselves so much. They think that there's something wrong with them. And it is nothing is wrong with you. You are not broken. You're just operating from very old stories and beliefs about yourself. And if your nervous system is dysregulated, your body is going to prioritize survival over clarity and confidence. Before a big presentation, your nervous system is going to perceive that as a threat. And then you've got the racing heart, you've got overthinking every word. That's just your body trying to protect you. If you've got to have what is often termed as a difficult conversation or a tough conversation, you might find yourself reacting defensively, or potentially you just shut down completely. So a nervous system that is regulated is a key part for you on your leadership journey, because it's going to give you access to your best thinking. It will give you access to your executive brain. And that's where you can lead with emotional balance, clarity. You can trust in yourself. So you might be there thinking, okay, so how do I turn this around? Well, one of the things that I do is I teach emotional freedom technique. I teach it within organizations, I teach it to employees, but when I'm working with women in leadership, I teach them emotional freedom technique, because to me, emotional freedom technique, it's from the world of energy psychology. It is what I have been using with people and on myself for about 13, 14 years, and it is a game changer. If you're not familiar with what it is, EFT combines basically tapping on specific acupressure points with very focused attention on what we're feeling. And what it does is it regulates the autonomic nervous system. It calms everything down. It takes us off emergency alert. It lowers our cortisol levels, cortisol being the stress hormone, and it neutralizes our thoughts. Our thoughts themselves are neutral. It's all of the emotion and the meaning that we've attached to our thinking that's bringing it to life. And the best part is it's so simple and quick, and it's something that you can do anytime that you feel overwhelmed or you feel anxious. And I just think it is so powerful to be able to regulate yourself within a matter of minutes. And the more time that we are able to do that, then we start to teach the body a new response. We start to feel safe. And that is the key. We feel safe. And when we feel safe, our behavior will naturally start to change. We can't change our behavior unless we feel safe. So if this is resonating with you and you would love to experience EFT tapping for yourself, then I invite you to take the first step. Go to the link in this podcast and download my free EFT tapping video on confidence and feeling good enough, and experience for yourself in just a few minutes, starting to feel calm, less stress, and reconnecting yourself to the true and authentic, confident leader that you truly are. Leadership isn't just about what you do, it's about how you show up. And how you show up is determined by your nervous system. Because if you've been operating from stress and overwhelm and self-doubt, it is not because you're not good enough. It's because your nervous system needs support. So I trust that this has sown some seeds of insight and inspiration so that you can start 2025 from a different place. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Sarah Maud. I'd love to hear your comments in the comments box. And remember, your calm, confident leadership is waiting for you. So take that first step today.